We're going to break down, clean, oil, and grease this loose spinning reel in this episode of Fishing with Gramps. Here in the off season, you should take some time to clean and lubricate your fishing gear. Now, I looked high and low for good videos on how to clean and lube a loose spinning reel, and I couldn't really find anything. Now I'm going to give you two different options in this video, and I'll put the timelines in the description below. One will be the more advanced technique, which is the full video. The other is a more basic cleaning, where you skip taking down the complete upper part and focus more on the internals in the handle. So let's get started. Started out by printing out this parts list that I got off of lose.com to help me identify the bearings and the gears. The bearings get the oil, the gears get the grease. I will link this in the description below in case you want to print it out and look at it yourself. So the tools we're going to need: small screwdriver, 10mm wrench, some real oil. I got some here from Lose. They partnered up with Lucas Oil, as well as the spinning wheel grease, and I'll link those down below. Q-tips and an old t-shirt. First thing we're going to do is remove the spool. Set it off to the side. Remove the spool, set it off to the side. Now right here above this bearing is a really small keeper. You can get your nails behind it and pop it out of the little groove that it sits in. As you can see, I've worked it up this way, so I'm just going to go ahead and work it all the way off. And there it is. It's really small. Set that off to the side. I actually put my spool over the top of that so I didn't lose it. Alright. Next we'll slide out the bearing. There's two of them. Stacked one on top of each other, on top of the gear. I'm going to leave them together in the order they came off as I set them off to the side. Next, take our wrench, work our way around. Work this loose, pull that off. Take that off. And with that off, we should be able to just take and remove. Alright, now that we got that off, we'll just go ahead and take out these three screws. And pop this cover off. Alright, now that I have that cover off, I'm going to go ahead and take off the handle. Just going to twist this all the way until it comes off. Set that to the side. Go ahead and pull the handle out. Set that off to the side. Alright, our next step is to take out these three outside screws. And oddly enough, I had to grab a little bit bigger screwdriver just to be able to get a good bite on those screws in there. The other one I had was a little small, so you got to be careful of that. Alright, now that we have all three screws out, we can take this top cover off. Should just be able to shake it. You might have to take your fingernail and get under and pop one of these edges off. I'm just going to lift it up slowly, push that gear back in, and just lift the cover off, just like that. And we have a bearing right here that goes inside that cover. And pull this set of gears out, and there's the bearing from the other side of the handle. We'll go ahead and take those apart so we can clean them. And there we go. See your main gear here. You can actually take and see how that slides back and forth along this gear here. You can pull this set of gears off. Now here you can see how dirty the grease is. And just take a rag like that, wipe it down really good. Alright, so now that we've got all that cleaned up, we'll just put a little grease on it, a couple little beads like that, and start to work it in, and then we'll let when we put it back together, turning it, it'll put it back in place. So I'm going to grab this other one we took off, and I'm just going to take out all the factory grease. Then I'm just going to dab in a little new grease for it to work around later. Just touching it here and there. And we put it back together and crank the handle to work all this into place. Take the main shaft off and wipe all this factory stuff off. Now there are people that own reels the entire real life and never open it up this much and remove the stuff that it shipped with, and that's fine. Me, I want to upgrade the lube a little bit to try to extend the life of this reel. It's not a super high-end reel, but no reason why we can't take care of it since we have it. Go ahead and clean this up. This reel's not too dirty. I've got a few bait casters that are a lot dirtier than this because I use them more often. I don't think this one went into the water at all this season. We'll go ahead and grab and dab a glob around the outside of this. I'm going to touch this bearing with a drop of oil going around on each side. That's one thing I love about these applicators, very precise. Alright, pushing our pinion gear back into place all the way down against this. I'm just kind of holding it there. Now I made sure that this went up over that pin that's below. This pin across the top is in place. I put my bearing back down in there using the tip of my magnetic screwdriver. Now I'm going to take my big gear that's lubed all the way around. I'm going to gently ease it down so this goes right into that bearing. Alright. It's all the way down and through. My cover is still over that pin on that gear. I'm going to set this aside for a second. Here's the outside cover. And then here's the bearing that was to that outside cover. So I'm just going to wipe down that bearing. And like I did before, I'm going to take my applicator and just go around it. Turn it over. Go around it. Just dropping the oil in there. And then I'm going to drop it back into its spot. And I'll take and turn it over. And then marry everything back up. Push it back into place. Screw number 1, screw number 2, and screw number 3. Alright. I'm going to grab the bearing that goes back here. I'm going to clean it off really quick. Then grab our oil applicator. Put a line around it, turn it over, put a line around it, slide it back onto the main shaft. Alright, and then you take the bearing and push it down inside. So if you see this little detent right here, you want to take it and line it up with this hole in the cover right here. So we'll just take the cover, lining up the detents. See how it sits flush. Now our screw holes are lined up. This is where this magnetic screwdriver comes in handy. Screw it back in. Number 2 and number 3. Alright, now that we have that cover back on, we're going to go ahead and take, this is the washer that was actually stuck on top of this. We'll feed it back down on top of the bearing like that. Then we will go ahead and put this on. Spin it around till it comes through. Go ahead and thread the nut back on. Very gentle here so you don't cross thread it. Again, just head it tight. And just hand tight. And we kept these together for a reason. White spacer on top of the gear. Just going to push it back down on the main shaft. Like so. Next we'll grab each of the tiny bearings and give them a line of oil around on each side. Now that we have both bearings lubricated, we can slide them back down the main shaft. Like so. Go back and get our teeny tiny little retaining pin. Rock it back and forth. And as you can see, we popped it back into its little cubby. Then we can take our spool and work it back on. Spin it around till it goes on. Feed it back on. And don't forget, later when you put this back on, you're going to have to adjust your drag. I pulled my handle back out, and this is where you set it for whichever side you want it. I cast with my right hand and then switch the rod over to my left. So I'm going to come back over to this side, put my handle here on the right side, and grab my screw for the other side and tighten it back up. Tighten that down hand tight. And then I'm just going to give it a bunch of spins. Let it work that grease and oil all the way around. And there we have it. Nice and smooth. Fresh grease, fresh oil, ready for fishing season. It's really not that complicated, it just takes a little bit of time. But your equipment will last a lot longer if you keep it clean and properly lube it. Now this cleaning method should work across the board for all the Lew's spinning reels. From your Lew's Speed Spin, the Mach 2, the Mach Crush series. What's the other one I'm forgetting out there? The Mach Smash maybe. As well as the Custom Pros and the others. They're all very similar in the way they're built. Any questions or comments? Drop them down below. Love the feedback I'm getting from everyone. If you like videos like this, be sure to hit that like button. It helps YouTube promote it to other people looking for content like this. Until next time, go outside when you can. Make a memory. They last a lifetime.
Oh, they're already biting it. Pull, 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 pull. Oh, you got him. Reel. You got him, Sky. You got a bluegill. We keep reeling. Oh, yay! You got a bluegill! You got a bluegill!